Hey, it's Amy Shaw, the Soul Whisperer here. I want to make a second video today. I know I've talked about this before, at least once, maybe twice or even 3 times. I don't exactly know. I've been making videos for a little while now, and I know I've talked about certain things, but I don't really pay attention to my past vlogs or you know, I don't rewatch them. But today, again, what I want to talk about is should a shaman charge for their services? This is just such a huge misconception in my mind, because I go around in the Facebook groups and I watch other people's vlogs and I hear people talk about, you know, there's this real kind of disdain, and I think, you know, honestly, I felt it too. You know, being a Christian and attending church, there was like this thing every time they passed around the collection basket every, you know, sermon. There's this thing in my gut that would just be like, ugh, you know, and then you would see how the people who tithed the most money to the church had the most clout. They got to be in the inner circle and they got to make more decisions about what kind of ministries were happening in the church and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, there's this, I experienced and have had experiences where there's just this real sort of disdain and this distrust for people who are peddling spirituality and trying to make money off of it. But it's interesting to me because, you know, in the main religions, you know, whether that's, you know, Christianity, you know, Protestantism or Catholicism, or, you know, whether that's the Islamic faiths or, you know, the Hindu faiths or the Buddhist faiths, you know, most of the time, the teacher, the pastor, the preacher, the monk, whoever, whatever we want to call that person, you know, they're getting their needs met materially. If it's not directly through a paycheck, then it's, you know, maybe a parsonage or a house is provided for them. You know, food is provided for them in some way. You know, even in the faiths where, you know, the monks, you know, live very humble and they take so-called vows of poverty, they're usually not starving to death. I mean, they're having at least their basic needs met in some way. So this concept that shamans should not get compensated in any way for their services is a mystery to me. I'm not exactly sure where that comes from, except from, you know, this overarching negative experience and this disdain that people have for people who peddle spirituality. And I understand there's like this connection between charlatanism and people that are peddling spirituality for money, but there's also like the legitimate thing, people that are, you know, actually here right now on this planet to serve, and they're doing it in a spiritual way. And I don't really understand why we think that they shouldn't get paid. Here in Western culture, we're in a market economy. And so it's pretty basic. You know, everybody buys goods, buys food, buys shelter, buys clothes using this thing that we call money. That's our source of trade, is money, these pieces of paper that are increasingly becoming digitized. But the point of it is it's a unit of measurement that is used in exchange. And as long as we're in this market economy system, there's not very many opportunities to be outside of that. Even if I do exchange of service for service or service for goods, which I'm open to that, and I have done that many times with my clients, it's still a sort of tit for tat, you know, approach to it. Is I'm still in my mind putting a dollar value on my time and making sure that the dollar value on the thing that I'm getting in return is equal in some way. And it might not be like literally tit for tat. I mean, let's say that my fee is $90 an hour and I'm getting a service from somebody else, then they're only charging $30 an hour. But maybe that service to me is worth $90 and I don't have the $30 to pay, or I'm willing to trade my services. I mean, that it doesn't have to be dollar for dollar in essence of what I'm saying, but there should definitely be an equal energetic exchange between people. So shamanism is like a 24/7 job. It doesn't end. If I spend an hour with my client, we're going to talk, we're going to be in ceremony, I'm going to do my shamanic work, but long outside of that hour, before the hour, I'm preparing for it. I'm making sure that I'm clear. I'm making sure that I'm in my power. Afterwards, I am carrying their burden. So every day I do shamanic work for people that I'm not necessarily seeing face to face. They're people that maybe have reached out to me and asked me for my help. And so every day I'm doing distance work in a sense for people. So even my clients, if that I'm seeing on a regular basis, in between the time that I'm actually spending with them, I'm still doing work for them. I'm still carrying them. So shamanic work is 24/7. Literally, like even when I'm sleeping, I will set intention before I sleep to do work in my dream time. And, there's that too. And I get up in the morning and I record that in a journal, the dream time, the messages that came through and the work that I'm doing on that level. So it's a 24/7, even when I'm quote unquote sleeping, even in the dream time, the liminal spaces, I'm still on duty. I'm still doing shamanic work. And so why is it that I shouldn't get paid for that? I don't know. I mean, the way that I look at it is I have to eat. I have to provide a roof over my head just like everybody else does. If I was living homeless, how effective could I be in my shamanic work? How available would I be to people when, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs? At the bottom of that triangle is the basic needs of food and water, and then shelter. And, as we move up that triangle, we get into the things like love and belonging, community, all that kind of stuff. But at the bottom rung of that triangle, if that's what we're doing is around scrapping for food and trying to stay safe and find shelter, how effective of a shaman can I really be in that sense? I mean, I would tend to think that I would be still having shamanic skills and shamanic gifts, but that a lot of these would be expended just on my own survival. So I would be very self-absorbed and self-focused, just trying to survive. And so I don't think that that's the way that we would want our shamans to be. It's certainly not that way in indigenous cultures. I've heard a lot of people say, well, in indigenous cultures, shamans don't get paid. Yes, but in most indigenous cultures, they don't have a market economy. They don't have a monetary system. They live very communally, very tribally. And they tend to also live in very hunting, gathering, subsistent cultures. So for example, all the men, it doesn't matter your role, it doesn't matter your title, it doesn't matter. Even the shaman, all the men will go out and hunt together. All the women, it doesn't matter if you're the midwife, it doesn't matter if you're the shaman, it doesn't matter if you're the basket maker, it doesn't matter if you're the jewelry maker. No matter what your role in the tribe, in the community, all the women go out and gather together. So, when the men bring back the food, it's a very communal way of living. And so everybody in this kind of culture and that kind of society is equal in every way. If we go out to the hunt and we don't find food to bring back, we all go hungry together. If we go out to the hunt and we have abundant, we all abundantly experience it together. So that's how tribal life, most tribal lives, are very different than our Western market economy. We live in a very isolationist, we're not communal, very nuclear family, we're very much market economy driven, and we place units of value on the exchange. So that's how it happens here. So yes, it is true that shamans in many indigenous cultures don't get money. They don't get paid for their services because they are valued as an integral member of the community, and their role that they serve as shaman is equal to and just as important as the roles that other people are playing in the community. But it's kind of like, in tribal societies, we sink or swim together, and that's how it is. So it's not fair to compare that culture to our own culture. because we don't have a tribe that will ensure that we eat, ensure that we have our basic needs met. We don't have that. We have to go out and be deterministic and do it for ourselves. So the other alternative is, should a shaman work? Should a shaman work a full-time job? Would you want me, if I was going to be your shaman, to work a full-time job, to put in 40, 50, maybe 60 hours a week working, so that I can make enough money? Because let's face it, if you're not college educated, or you don't have some really crazy mad technical skills that are valued in our society, if you're just stuck working like a minimum wage retail job or some type of service industry, you're not even really going to make it. You're not even going to be able to actually keep a roof over your head and feed yourself. You're going to have to live with people or live in a much more communal, whether it's roommates or parents or whatever. You're certainly not going to be able to provide for anybody else. I mean, at this point, you're really subsisting. You're barely just, making ends meet for your own self and carrying your own weight. So would you want me, if I was your shaman, to be in that situation where I'm working 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week and then coming home and on my off time offering you what's left of myself, what's left of my energy and my resource? And, I don't think, I wouldn't want to see a shaman like that. I would want a shaman that's fully 100% full-time dedicated to their shamanic practice, and also able and willing to bless me benevolently, and that requires paying clients. I'm not saying the majority of people that come to me actually cannot afford my fee. So the majority, I would say 9 out of 10 of the people that come to me, I work with them on what they can afford on a sliding scale, and we work together. I have certain limitations. I also have an overhead. When I'm working here locally in Austin, there's spaces, healing spaces that I work out of. I have to rent those spaces myself. I have to pay for them. So why should I have to pay that fee for that space myself? Where does that money come from? We could talk all day long about, trusting the spirits. And yes, I understand all of this, and I do that just as much as the next person does. I'm not so caught up on the money is what I'm saying, that it's the only thing that drives me. It's not why I even got onto this path. It's not how I got here. Trust me, I'm not doing this for the money in any way. And I probably will never even be able to eke a living out of my shamanic services. But the point I'm offering here is that it's a 24/7 job, and it's hard work, and a lot of times I have to pay, all the time, if it's here locally, I have to pay for the space rental, because the rent has to be paid, the electricity has to be paid, all of that has to be in place. And that shouldn't just come from me. Now, if I won the lottery or something and I had this excess of money, then I would just see everybody for free. I would be happy to bless people benevolently, but that's not the situation that I'm in. And so it has to be weighed, and there has to be an equal exchange. Another big part of that, and maybe I talked about this before as well, is that when somebody comes to you, that old adage that you get what you pay for, there's some truth to that. But there's also truth to this idea that you value what you pay for. So if I'm just free and you're just going to use my time and use my technical skills and my experience and my years and years and years of cultivating all of that wisdom and everything that it's taken to even be of service and to offer anything to anybody else, if you're just going to use that like it's nothing, it should just be free, then how much are you really valuing not only what I offer, but also myself as an individual, my journey and my path, and how hard that I have worked and continued to work to be of service to other people. This idea that shamanism is just this free gift that's freely given is an erroneous idea. I think in some aspects, yes, the spirits choose the shaman, and yes, there is blessing to be had in that. But it is an incredibly intense, arduous transmutation process to get from the place of initiation into a place of shamanic service. It is like a hell of a journey that I can't even really articulate into words. It's just so, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm often joking with people that I feel like I've lived 4 lifetimes in just this one. And that is the honest to God truth. So, that's a lot. It's a lot. And, I'm not saying like people owe me or that they should pay me for having gone through all of that. But the recognition of everything that I've gone through, and to be finally into a place of being able to offer all of that I transmuted, all of that initiation process that I endured and to be at a place, to offer that to people in service, it's valuable. It's worth something. It shouldn't be looked at cheaply, and I shouldn't be undervalued as, somebody that's just trying to make money off of this, or I shouldn't be looked at like, oh, she's charging, she must be a charlatan. I think that, we have to balance this and really feel into that and understand that, yes, there are people that have developed this really awesome, amazing business model, and they are selling spirituality. They are selling shamanism, some of them. We have to be aware of that. We have to be cognizant of that. But we also have to be aware and cognizant that there are shamans, real shamans, who have come to the table at this time in this place to offer themselves. And as a community, we cannot encourage the shamanic impulse and help shamanism to grow if we're continuing to like make our shamans live in poverty, make our shamans be homeless. But this isn't valuing the work. It isn't valuing the role, and it isn't valuing the people that have come to do this amazing work. So I just want to offer that today and give you something to think about. And I just want to ask you to check in with yourself and see, is this a bias that I have, and what is that based on? What kind of experiences have I had that have, altered my perspective? And what am I taking personal and projecting out onto other people? And how might I actually transmute that in some sort of way of grace that holds that balance in a way that I can keep discerning between, people and their motives, and then I can come along and support and encourage people that are benevolent, that are coming from a place of heart, that do have good motives, and encourage them in their practice, that they can continue in that practice. Because I'll tell you, shamanism is needed more now than ever, ever, ever. And we do have to discern between who the real shamans are and the charlatans are. It's important. It's necessary. It's an uncomfortable discussion. It's one I don't like to have because I feel there's a lot of judgment that can come through, a lot of projection, and it's just very sensitive terrain. I feel like I'm pretty clear at being able to discern, but talking about it publicly is a different issue, and it's one that I approach very, very lightly and very, very carefully, because we are in this sort of time too where there's a lot of people pointing at each other saying, well, you're not a shaman, you're not a shaman, you're not a shaman. And I don't really want to get caught up in that, and I feel that's not helpful. And a lot of times that comes from a place of projection and people being triggered and not doing their own sort of like clearing and their own healing to be able to stand in their power and allow for difference or divergence. The shamanic expression is wide. It's a wide spectrum, and you're going to have a lot of different people on that spectrum. It's one of the goals of the Urban Shaman, which is another big project that I launched. Actually, it's been a year now that I've been working on that project. And that's a big goal of that project, is to bring in the diversity of shamanic expression and to encourage and support that. But I also think within that spectrum of shamanic expression, there's clearly what is shamanism and what is not. So we have to be careful to be inclusive, but also there has to be wide boundaries of exclusiveness as well, because we're going to run into a big problem if we start calling everything shamanism when not everything is shamanism. But I'm diverting. I'm getting off of the track here. Just going back to, the heart of what I'm saying, is that, to grow shamanism in the West, to encourage that shamanic impulse and encourage people who are feeling the shamanic impulse, who may be shamanic individuals, to encourage them to continue to work through their initiation process to get to the point of actually being shamans in service to other people. We have to support that. And if we're not going to do it literally through the monetary exchange, there has to be another way that we do that, to make sure that their needs are met, their basic needs are met, sufficiently and fairly met. I just think it's incredibly unfair to expect that shamans should live in poverty, or that they should give themselves for free. It's devaluing them, and it's time that we stop. We stop devaluing them. This is what really stamped out shamanism years and years and years and years and years and years ago, was these same sort of processes of demonizing, devaluing, segregating, isolating, and all these things. And this is why we're trying to repair these broken lineages and, participate in, hopefully, the shamanic renaissance that's taking place. But we're not going to be an ally or the friend to our shamans if we keep insisting that they should do what they do for free. So I just wanted to put that out there today, give you something to think about, give you an opportunity to kind of check in with yourself and, maybe do a little bit of work if you need to, clear some projections that you might be having, or, lean into maybe some negative experiences that you've had with spiritual people, and how they may have harmed you. I know certainly, coming out of the church, it took me years and years of working through some wounding, some pain, definitely some wounding that I experienced, as a Christian. And it wasn't just one particular church, it was the thing overall. Many different churches, many different experiences over time. I've had to really recover from that and heal from that. And so maybe that's your case as well. Maybe there's some healing that needs to happen, and you're still projecting out of your wounding this idea that wants to devalue shamans, devalue their work, delegitimize them or isolate them, or in some ways I see a lot of this happening too in online discussions where people claim to be of indigenous ancestry or tribal, and they really want to segregate and criticize white Western people as not being able to be shamans, or they think that they're just motivated by the money. It's just it's the new sort of new age trend, and everybody that's white and calling themselves a shaman is just riding this trend and trying to get money off of people. I think a lot of times those ideas and thoughts come from a place of wounding. They come from a place of feeling victimized or having had negative experiences in the past and not sufficiently healing, not forgiving, not working through those. And so those get projected out into this stereotype that gets created. And it's really important to not participate in that, to not latch onto that and participate in stereotype making, to understand that shamanism is an archetype and that all human beings are capable of experiencing the shamanic impulse. But the real work of it is, has that person transmuted the shamanic initiation in a way that they have compassion, that they are here to serve, that they, understand their role, that they have humility, and all these things. These are the things that you should be looking for. And when I say humility, I'm saying not somebody that's weak, okay? Because to be a shaman, you have to really be in your power. But you have to know thyself. That's the key. And to know how to draw the power and how to channel it, how to wield that in a way that's humble and, not trying to steal power away from other people. So, these are just signs to look for and things to think about. But just understand that, not every shaman might be this perception that you have. Be open to the idea and take each individual, not as a stereotype, but as an individual. Lean in and use your discernment, and, stay away from blanket statements that, everybody that is asking for money is a charlatan, or, that all spiritual services should be free or shamanic services should be free. Can be considerate and understanding of really what the role is and the immense amount of energy, technical expertise, experience, wisdom that it's taken to get to that point for that person to even put themselves out there and be in practice. And that's valuable. It's worth something. So I hope that you guys have a blessed day, and I just hope that you consider everything that I said. As always, you're very free to leave a question or comment down below, and I look forward to interacting with you. Have a blessed day.